David Jones is closing its Bourke Street store. Let's have a look. Good evening, everyone. I'm Florian Heise and welcome to another episode of Heise Says. I have my stein of evening coffee before I settle down for some, the night shift working. I thought we would have a look at this article, which seems to reiterate the fact that Australia is in a retail recession. Really everything seems to be lining up, unless you happen to be a mobile phone selling electronics store just after everyone thought they were getting a tax handout and it was actually a refund. It seems to all be lining up. But before we look at this article, let's just jump here and have a look at some other data, particularly consumer and business confidence. Now, if you like this type of content, if you're interested in discussing a more contrarian view of what's being reported and discussed, or just looking at it with a little bit more information put forward to you, please share this content with your family and friends on social media. It helps to grow the channel and it helps to get discussions about this out there. A lot of people will only read the headline or will only listen to the soundbite. So we need to get more people talking, more people thinking. So what we have here is from the Melbourne Institute and Westpac Consumer Sentiment Index. So this is essentially the sentiment of consumers. Now, I've looked at it in previous videos and I tend to look at it every time it gets updated. Or I intend to more so. You can see now we're sitting at 98.2, and in recent times it was up to 104.5. So 100 is the neutral point. So it's heading down. Let's look at the max. You can see here, look at the 80s where it's jumped down. Look at, there we go, the GFC. There was consumer confidence. So, in the big grand scheme of things, it doesn't look too desperate, as I would say, in these other times, but it's a trend that we should watch. Now, business confidence. We can see here, this is a different scale. This is the NAB Business Confidence Index, and it plunged to 1 in August from 4 in July. So we can see, and what's the scale here? Business conditions weakened, continuing below average, with sales down 4 points to 3 and profitability down 3 points to -3. So what they have is, and I will definitely go through this in greater detail in a full episode, but they break it up. These indices they've all got subsections, and they ask business owners just different questions. And then they, the questions are meant to be answered in such a way to eliminate individual bias, so they can get a quantitative result from essentially qualitative questions. And then they can track it to give us meaningful data. Let's jump out max. We can see, okay, look at business confidence of the GFC. So business confidence spiked up, and I'd say that's at the election right there, and it's heading down again. So we've got consumer confidence, business confidence going down. So, and David Jones is selling one of their biggest assets. And also, remember, Stocklands are selling a large portion of their assets as well. So I'll jump over to this video I did here, where in it they're talking about their financial year results for Stocklands, and mention that they've offloaded $500 million, $500 million of their non-core retail assets. And they're planning to divest, they call it, divest, another $500 million. So $1 billion of retail space is on the market from Stocklands. And I'll link to that video if you'd like to have a look at it. And that was just in August of this year, so it was quite recent. So if we jump back, let's have a look at this article. And I don't think this will surprise anyone that David Jones is doing this. We actually worked on a fit out inside this David Jones. I think Rachel was telling me we did the Lorna Jane in there. So I guess that's gone now. We've had two shops. Well, no, actually I think all our work in Brisbane, the 3 shops we did there are all closed. I know the restaurateur had maybe the restaurant's still open, but he sold it. Yes. So David Jones is slicing off a huge chunk of its presence at its flagship Bourke Street mall, selling the 6-story menswear building. The embattled 6-story building for menswear. I mean, that just seems so quaint, doesn't it? All that retail, expensive floor space when people can order it online. The embattled department store chain will retreat the entire operation into the main complex across the mall, which will undergo a refurbishment funded in part by the expected $500 million gain from the sale and general proceeds, placing 299 Bourke Street on the market follows a miserable couple of months for David Jones as its South African owners, Woolworths Holding, revealed a 42% profit tumble and slashed the department store's chain's value by $437 million. Well, there you go. The refurbishment mirrors plans for its Elizabeth Street store in Sydney, where it's downsizing from 2 sites spread over 17 floors into 1 store with 11 floors, and a foodie mezzanine, closing its Market Street branch and squeezing into the 1 premises. This is, I'm seeing more and more of this type of work. It's even coming across our desk, looking at where firms are refurbishing. In the retail sector, they're having to upgrade, refurbish to attract clients. Consumer confidence is down. Business confidence is down. There's talk of a recession everywhere. Interest rates are at insanely low levels. So I guess you've got to do what you have to do, don't you, to even attract people in, to keep the tenants in, to keep the value of your asset. That's the main goal. You need to, if you have a tenanted space with the people, you don't care if they're, they'll even cut leasing deals with them to keep them in there, because that is a big portion of the actual valuation of their properties. Woolworths Holding Chief Executive Ian Moore said the Melbourne flagship will follow a similar path. A single-store flagship housing the best local and international brands in one world-class destination will create a more seamless and cohesive experience for our customers, he said in a statement. Woolworths Holding bought the prestigious network of stores in 2014 for $2.1 billion as part of his plan to turn the company into a leading Southern Hemisphere retailer. But the value of the beleaguered department store chain has shrunk to $965 million. That was a bad buy, wasn't it? The chain has embarked on a transformational journey of resizing and store closures in order to save money, but the cost-cutting endeavors have been hampered by a slowing Australian economy as property prices fell and consumer spending stalled. The company blamed its failings on a retail recession, which was criticized by competitors as it focuses more on online offerings and modern operations. Much like the smaller convenience store style that Woolworths and Coles have been opening, David Jones has focused on smaller floor space in its new stores to modernize the shopping experience. The miniature department store at Sydney's Barangaroo, which opened in late 2016, was the first of this fleet, with the South African-owned chain preferencing a layout of 1,400 square meters over 2 floors, 1/10 the size of the chain's average department store. Well, that makes a lot of sense. That's going to significantly decrease the cost of running the store just in the footprint. Just think about how little, 1/10 the electricity they'll need to keep it running as well. They should be claiming it's good for the environment. They might get green credits or something. This model allows both David Jones to offer a more curated range of products to suit a local demographic rather than trying to meet the needs of a broader market. Queensland University of Technology retail expert Gary Mortimer told news.com.au. DGC advisory retail analyst Jeff Dart said earlier this year downsizing and modifying the brand's in-store to increase profit margins wouldn't work because younger consumers didn't see the relevance in the brand. Well, we do have some younger people watching this channel. Most of you are my age and above. Guys, do you still go to David Jones? Do young people see it? I mean, from my perspective, it's an old person brand, and I'm an old person to young people now, which is why profits have been declining every year for 15 or 16 years. Revenue is not growing, and it can only get worse, he said. It's a brand issue. It's like Coca-Cola trying to say they're healthy. Oh, yes. The strategic locations will be converted over the next 6 months. So there you go. There's a new foodie one. That's a nice little render someone did there. Is that a Lumion render? Could be. I recognize a few of the things there in the background. The fancy servo. David Jones announced earlier this week it would bring its food hall experience to service stations across the country as part of a major tie-up with BP, offering motorists more than 350 products, including rotisserie chickens, prepared meals, sushi and sandwiches, as well as fresh produce and long-life groceries. The deal, the commercial terms of which have not been disclosed, will convert 5 BP locations in Sydney and 5 in Melbourne into swanky new David Jones branded mini marts over the next 6 months. Additional sites will follow. There are over 1,400 BP branded service stations in Australia, 350 of which are company owned. BP has similar tie-ups in more than half a dozen other countries, most notably with high-end UK department stores Marks and Spencer, famed for its ready meals and gourmet sandwiches. We're investing in different parts of the business to set up ourselves for the future, and food is one of those areas, said David Jones Food Managing Director Peter DeWitt, who conceded historically its food halls weren't in the most convenient locations. I must say, I do have childhood memories of going all the way into Melbourne from we lived in Coldstream at Lilydale, Yarra Valley, going all the way in on train with my mother so she could get Lux. And I remember all the food there. I still have fond memories of that. Although it's a different time now, it's a lot easier to get all of that food everywhere. BP's got a customer base that really overlaps with David Jones. What this partnership brings to customers is an opportunity to have our brand easily accessible. To build a sustainable food business takes a lot of time. Therefore, this partnership was appealing to us. It gets our brand out there. It's a key aspect of how we're going to grow our business going forward. Well, that is a very interesting approach. That is a very interesting approach. Do you think it'll work, guys? I mean, when you're driving in your car and you're on a long trip, I know I'm not as picky if I have to spend money on some food. You'll generally always pay a premium when you're at a petrol station. Will David Jones make a difference with their gourmet food selection? Maybe it'll work. Let me know what you think in the comments. You know, it's an interesting strategy. They've got to do something. They've got to do something. And we can still drive our cars for now. We can still drive, although petrol's getting more expensive and cost of living is going up, particularly with the dollar going down. We'll see. We will see what happens. So guys, thank you for joining me for this episode. Please like, share, subscribe if you're enjoying what you're seeing. If you'd like to help me out, I do have a subscribe star and a Patreon down below. Check those out. And I will see you all again later. Probably tomorrow. Definitely tomorrow. Take care. Bye.